putting people on the spot thing I've started doing now. So what is this conference about? What does it mean to you? Whatever you want to tell us about it.
Good morning, Mediator Vikram and everyone who is attending today. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share. This conference really is an opportunity for everyone throughout the world to really understand what goes on behind the scenes, I think, in mediators' minds, and learn a little bit more about how to perhaps integrate the practice of mediation or the various mediation skills in life. And that's why I'm presenting today, because in part, both as mediators and just going through life as people in our daily lives, peace is so important. And I think people forget that peace begins with us. And so I remember growing up, I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, and my parents had this wooden stereo console. And I would love to go down and play those big albums. Maybe some folks remember big albums. And one of the records I would play over and over again was Donna Fargo. And I would sing along to, "You can't be a beacon if your light don't shine. And there's a little light in all of us." And that's where I came up with this idea for the topic, is the idea that there is a light in all of us. And I think sometimes we forget that. And when we are connected with that inner light, that's a connection to our inner peace. And so everyone who is here today, if you are listening in, I invite you to perhaps soften your gaze and bring a hand or two, if you are able, to your chest. And just notice your breath in your heartbeat. And there is a power. There is a beautiful power breathing you. And you may have a name for that. It may be the divine or the infinite or the universe or God or some other name. It is a life force breathing you. And you are part of that energetic force of this world. And I think that you can feel your breath and feel your heartbeat means that there is a light alive in you. And my hope for you today is to awaken that a bit. And so often when I talk with folks in conflict, people are coming from the problem. People get really focused on the problem rather than the vision. And part of that reason is I think we don't check in with ourselves. We don't check in with our basic needs and what's going on. And I don't know, Vikram, if I have the capacity to share my screen.
Have you put out the topic? Because that we said in the last one, awaken your light, empower a vision for peace. I just have to say that there.
Okay, so can you see my screen right now?
Yeah.
And so are you seeing freedom?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So when maybe we're driving down the road or we get in our car, we check our fuel gauge. And we also check maybe tire pressure. And we check what's in our refrigerator, perhaps. We're constantly kind of assessing where things are to meet our needs. We need gas in the tank to drive a vehicle. We need food in the refrigerator or wherever we store it to eat. We're assessing where things are. And when it comes to our basic human needs, though, sometimes we forget to assess where we are until we're in the middle of a conflict or really at odds with someone. And so today I just really want to make this time and session about you, because when you are not experiencing inner conflict, when you are feeling that your needs are being met, you're going to be in a space and a place to show up with more compassion with the people around you. You're going to be more aligned with who you are and who you wish to be. And so one of the first needs that we have is freedom. And I base these off of kind of Marshall Rosenberg's work. Marshall Rosenberg was one of the leaders in mediation and conflict resolution, doing so much work on nonviolent communication. And one of those, and I love that Baruch mentioned it too. And I just have to add that his book, The Promise of Mediation, was one of the first I was assigned in law school back in 1997 or 98, I forget which year. And I still have that book. So, and he talks about our need for autonomy. We are independent beings and we're also social beings. So one of the first things to look at, and perhaps just think for yourself, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being dissatisfied and 5 being fully satisfied, where are you today? What's your level of satisfaction in the area of freedom? That's your own, having autonomy, dignity, independence, spontaneity. Where is that for you right now today? And then in the area of health, it might be your ability to move or the amount of rest that you get. It's also your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Where are you right now today? And then in the area of joy, I think especially as adults, we forget. You know, as a kid, I was playing the albums and singing along, and sometimes I would play DJ or hop on the bike and play games with my brothers. And there was just this sense of play. And I think sometimes as adults, we forget that joy is important. And I know I noticed that in my life last week. I'm like, oh, I haven't played or engaged in much social activity. And again, Baruch in the last session mentioned, again, we are social beings as well. We're independent and we're social. And maybe you get joy from not being social, or maybe it is part of that. And there's going to be another section that we talk about that in. But in the area of humor or laughter or play or relaxation or stimulation, what's your level of satisfaction today? Right now. And there's no right or wrong answer. These are for your eyes only, but it does give you some sort of sense of where you are. And then in the areas of love and support, when I talk with businesses and organizations, so often I hear the conflict arises because there's a lack of respect or a lack of appreciation. In a family matter, it often comes down to compassion or intimacy or understanding, and certainly respect and other things play in that too. Love and support, because again, we are relational. We have a basic need for connection. Gauging where we are right now today is really, really crucial. Then you can just check in and say, oh, this is just where I am right now. That's just what the fuel gauge reads right now. And then meaning. We have a desire sometimes in life for a little growth or challenge, or we have a sense of purpose that we want to create in our lives. So where are you right now today in the area of meaning? And then finally, looking at the area of peace, your balance, your contentment, your ease, harmony, hope, whatever peace looks like or means to you, what's your level of satisfaction today? And all of this falls under one of the 3 key areas, which I forgot to mention at the beginning. I kind of started ahead of myself. But the 3 key areas to awakening your light or to conflict resolution or peace building, I say, are clarity, compassion, and curiosity. And so clarity involves assessing where we are. It involves being aware of our values, what's important to us. It involves being aware of what we're making things mean, because we get to choose what any given moment means. I remember when I was in high school, a boy pointed at me and said, "Sherry has a hair lip." And I took that to mean that I was ugly and awful and less than and not valuable. And from a level of fact, what the boy said was absolutely 100% true, but I got to choose what it means, or I chose what it meant in that moment. And the truth was that was just a fact about me. It wasn't the whole truth about me. And I think sometimes we get caught up in lives, particularly when we're focusing on what we see as problems or conflict. We start to make things mean that maybe they don't really mean. Or if they do mean that, it's not the whole truth about the situation. It's never the whole truth about me or you or anyone. We're just looking at a little snippet of life. And so just being really clear about that, our values, the meaning we're giving things, what we're making things mean, and then of course the results that we want to create. I don't know how often people check in on a daily basis or even a weekly or monthly basis to say, what's my intention? What do I hope to create in the world today? Who do I hope to be today? And the being, I feel, is much, much more important than the doing or the creating. Of course, we are human beings. We're not human doings. And the energy that we give off is so powerful. It's so super powerful. I don't know if you've ever been in a space with someone who is just angry and frustrated, and they gave off an energy of anger and frustration, and maybe kind of folks kept a distance. I remember growing up, and I loved my dad. He was super great, hardworking, compassionate guy, and he had a violent side. And I could feel that energy coming in the house or being in the kitchen, and I got back out of there. Even as a little kid, I knew to just make myself scarce, went to a room, read a book. And he had an energy, and I know we all do. We have an energy that we are giving off. And when we are aware and clear about where we are in all of these areas of life, if our needs are being met, if we're satisfied or content, that changes the energy. And being purposeful about what we intend to create for a day, like I mentioned, or who we're going to be. More importantly, who are we going to be today? And so perhaps you might want to say what your intention is for the day. Maybe it's an intention for our time together right now. Maybe it's an intention for the year. Sometimes people come up with my word of the year is joy or adventure or whatever the word might be, or compassion, and really focus that as their intention. So that's part of the clarity part. The other part of the clarity is thinking about the vision. What are you trying to create? And so often our brains sometimes go to, well, how are you going to do that? Which we'll talk about in a bit under the compassion key. When you think about a vision and what you want to create, I know I used to create vision boards all the time, and maybe some of you do too. And maybe you want to raise your hand or comment if you do. And when we go from a more expanded time period, say 3 years, what's your vision in 3 years? Imagine, and I invite you to go ahead and close your eyes or soften your gaze and imagine it is 3 years from now. So it is June of 2025, and you are experiencing full satisfaction in all areas of life. You feel so free. You are experiencing independence and spontaneity and autonomy. Your health is beyond your imagination wonderful. You are feeling healthy physically, emotionally, spiritually. You're able to move in the ways you want to move and getting adequate rest. You are experiencing joy, humor, laughter, play. Oh my gosh, maybe you're going certain places, enjoying certain things with certain people. You feel so loved and supported. You experience a high level of compassion and appreciation and respect and understanding and intimacy in your life. You have deep meaning. You are fully satisfied, and your meaning and purpose is very, very clear to you. You have grown so much in the last 3 years. You've discovered and become aware, and you are experiencing peace. And you notice that the level of peace around you and the world around you is so high. You have so much hope. You are feeling in harmony with the people around you, the world around you. You feel well balanced. And what does that look like? What does that look like for you? And normally when I do a presentation or a workshop, I would invite people to take some minutes and write down, what are you envisioning? It is June of 2025. What are you experiencing? Where are you? Who is with you? What has led you to this feeling of perfect contentment in all areas of life? And as you think about, notice the energy, notice the feelings that arise in you as you experience that full contentment and satisfaction in all areas of life. It changes your energy. Feeling content in all those areas of life changes your energy. It changes how you show up and how you interact. What does that look like? And one of the parts of visioning is being present with that feeling, even though that vision is 3 years from now. And so one of the tools that folks use that I learned through Mary Morrissey and some other thought leaders, Abraham, is saying it as though it's happening now. So this vision that you have 3 years from now, you say, I am so happy and grateful now that I am experiencing these things in the area of freedom and health and love and support and connection and peace and purpose and joy. I'm so happy and grateful that these are my experiences. And then sometimes when we do that, these thoughts come in. And that's where the compassion key, the second key, compassion. You've been clear about who you are and who you wish to be and where you are now and what you wish to create. And then we start having these thoughts. And these thoughts might show up as some fear or doubt or worry. For me, one of the things I often hear is, who are you to do that? Who do you think you are? You're not good enough. Those are the thoughts that up until now that I've heard. And I have to check in. How are you going to do that is another thought that comes up. And these tend to come up. I say these thoughts arise in 3 areas. Delay, something says, oh, don't do that now. Now is not the time. Or something else is more important. Distraction. Oh, well, really, someone else needs this. So you can't work on this project now, or you can't meet that need now. And then the other one is dissuasion, totally talking me out of it. Oh, nope, you can't do that. And these are all these things that pop up. And I've learned that those thoughts are just trying to keep me safe. And so I thank them. I say, oh, thanks for showing up. And now you can have a seat right over there in the corner. And just, we'll talk maybe Friday at 4. So I don't want to ignore them, because if I ignore them, it's that whole idea of what resists persists. So if I ignore those thoughts that are delay or distraction or dissuasion, they just get stronger and stronger, right? And so when I say, hey, I see you. Thanks for showing up. I think you're trying to keep me safe. I am safe. I'm okay. And you get a time on my calendar if you're still around Friday at 4. And that is the other part of compassion, is that you get to control your calendar. You got to take care of you. And it's really important that something in all of these areas of life is on your calendar. Are you on your calendar taking care of health and joy and the connection with loved ones? Where on your calendar are you honoring peace and meaning and freedom? And maybe it's a certain time every day. Maybe it's a certain time every week. Maybe it changes. And a really great tip that someone taught me was, if I put something on the calendar, particularly it's for me, I don't know about you, if you're like me, maybe you put something on your calendar for you and you like cancel it and cancel it and cancel it and keep canceling it. And I've learned that if I put something on the calendar, maybe it's a workout, whatever it might be, and I reschedule it. When I reschedule it, the next time I put a 2 in parentheses. So I know that's the second time it's on my calendar. And then if I reschedule it again, it gets a 3 behind it. And then it's on my calendar the third time, and that is now an emergency. Nothing can override that except maybe someone dying in a hospital. It then becomes the emergency, because I think so often, sometimes we think, well, that thing for me, maybe it's you have a desire to write a book or to learn to play the guitar or whatever fills you up in one of these areas, and keep delaying and getting distracted or talked out of it. If it's on your calendar, you get to honor you. And when you start honoring you, just think of that inner light, feeling alive and awakened and honored. And then you get to shine your light in the world, which is just so powerful. And the ripple effect that has on people. You know, some years ago, I was practicing law for about 20 years, and I was tired of it. And the truth was, I loved practicing. I loved that I could help people. And I knew when I graduated from law school, I wanted to be a mediator. But I had all those thoughts. I was talked out of it. People told me the reasons I couldn't do it. I listened. My own brain talked me out of it, said, yeah, you can't do that. And that nudge, though, that yearning in my heart for mediation just kept calling and tugging. And finally, in 2019, I took the step. I left my legal practice. I opened this mediation practice, and I'm getting more and more and aligned. And I think when we get in alignment with our light, all these doors open that we never would have seen had we not taken the step. And one thing I was going to mention, though, in 2017, I knew that I was ready to leave, but I didn't quite make the jump. But I did take some extended vacations. And actually, I was planning to quit my job in 2017 practicing, and told my employer that I was ready to leave. I wanted to take extended travel. And just before I was about to leave, because I still would have liked some security, right? And I still cared about what was happening there. I just didn't necessarily want to practice. Just before I was about to leave, we worked out a position where I could be the director of the pro bono program and direct some communication programs and work part-time and do some of it remotely and still take all the travel I needed. And so I believe the infinite opened up this opportunity because I had taken the step to leave and follow my heart to do some extensive travel. And the people who have told me throughout my community how much I inspired them to go travel or to do this thing that they had always thought about doing was just so heartwarming. So the impact that you make on the world just by following your light is so powerful. You don't know who is hearing about you and your story and seeing how you show up and the energy that you give off. It's so powerful. So keep that compassion with yourself. You get to follow your light and honor yourself, because I think in doing so, you're honoring your creator, you're honoring your design and purpose. If it gives you life. So we've talked about clarity, being clear about your vision, where you are. We've talked about compassion, honoring those feelings, facing those feelings. You get to feel whatever you feel. And those feelings are telling you something. Those feelings actually are telling you whether or not a need is being met. I'm actually going to stop the share for a little bit. Those feelings tell us whether or not our needs are being met. And one of the things Marshall Rosenberg teaches as well is at the heart of every conflict is an underlying need. So maybe it's a conflict at home with a family member. Maybe it's a conflict in the workplace. It might be a conflict at the grocery store or a restaurant, and conflicts in ourselves. It all comes down to an unmet need. So when you are feeling off, even when you're sitting alone, those feelings are so important to acknowledge. Because if you are feeling happy and joyful and content, that might signal to you that your needs are being met. And when you are feeling angry, frustrated, sad, it's usually a signal that your needs are not being met. And then you can go back and check your assessment and say, oh yeah, I haven't connected with a friend or a family member in a while. Maybe I need some connection. Or, oh yeah, I haven't been taking care of my health. Maybe I need to check in physically, emotionally, spiritually. Whatever it is, checking in with our needs is so important. And that's part of being compassionate with ourselves. And finally, curiosity. I love that Baruch talks about that tentativeness of reflecting back. And I think it is sometimes a tentativeness with ourselves, like, hey, this is what you're feeling. This is what's going on. I would ask myself, though, what do I need? What is this telling me? And what is one step I'm willing to take in that direction? So if you have a need for joy, for play, for laughter, what are you willing to do? What's the one step you're willing to take in the next 7 days? If your need is for love and support or connection, what's the one step you're going to take in the next 7 days? If you need to experience more freedom or spontaneity, what's that? So getting curious. And sometimes when people have bold visions, they say, well, there's just too much. Like, how am I possibly going to write that book? Or how am I possibly going to get healthy enough? It always starts with one step, right? We always start with just that one simple step. And so I invite you, as you think about the area of life where you feel that you have the greatest need right now, or the area that you want to focus on most, I invite you now to maybe just soften your eyes and breathe in. Breathe in all of that love and breathe out that light, and ask, what is one thing I could do in the next 7 days? One step I could take in the direction of my vision. Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's an internet search. Maybe it's 30 minutes of writing. What is the one step you can take in the direction of this vision that's going to create internal peace and allow you to show up with more peace at home, at work, and in your community? And one of the thoughts then that sometimes comes up for people is, well, I have this vision, but is it really that important? And this goes back to the compassion and the curiosity. If something is on your heart and stays on your heart, and you know that it has value for your internal peace, it likely has value for others. And sometimes people say, well, how does having a really happy marriage, though, have value for others? Anyone ever seen someone in an unhappy marriage? And it impacts the families, it impacts maybe coworkers, it impacts a greater community. Having a happy marriage is a wonderful vision. If the goal is this beautiful, happy marriage, absolutely. Or maybe it is writing a book. Writing the book, yes, it could bring you joy, it can also have an impact on the world. Maybe it's learning to play guitar, and that music brings joy to the people around you. So if there's a vision on your heart to meet a need in your life, I don't necessarily see it as selfish. In fact, I see it as giving and shining your light, which is going to impact the people around you, and certainly the energy that you bring to the people around you, to your community. And so in closing, I'm going to invite us to take a look at something. And I want to leave time for folks to talk. And if you want to unmute folks, Mediator Vikram, we could share this together.
Sure. Normally, look, I could do, now they'll have the option of unmuting themselves. And Lily definitely has lots to say. This is an area which is very close to her heart, all these nice things that you've said. Yes, Lily, it is.
Well, I thought Sherry was going to share something.
She will.
Yeah, so can you, I need to share the screen, don't I?
Yes, it'll be helpful.
All right, so are you able to see the truth is?
Yeah.
All right, so I invite everyone, take a breath in and a breath out and join in saying, the truth is, I am here to shine my light. I am worthy of living a life I love. My inner light contains beauty and power. Acting in alignment with my vision, I shine my beautiful bright light everywhere I go, with everyone I meet. And I would add that by shining your beautiful bright light, you are living your truth, and truth heals. Thank you all so much for being here. I sometimes turn this into a 3-hour workshop, so I think I've hit the high points.
No, it's wonderful to hear you, and the fact that the calming kind of tone and everything that you use, all that is also important. It's part of the entire thing. So Lily's not in a good mood today, so maybe she won't get to come in today. So yes, Lily, what's happened? Not in a good mood today?
There's gardening going on outside, so you might hear that noise. So I'll make this quick. So Sherry, yes, all the things you talked about, I totally agree with. I do think that as far as mediation and conflict, when people come to a mediation, they're not feeling any of the things you're talking about. They're feeling very disconnected, and they're also probably shut down with their curiosity. They may be completely confused about what they actually feel, and they're not even open to what the other person feels. So all the stuff you're talking about, for me, this is sort of obviously a personal path that people benefit from taking, but they really, when they're in a mediation or conflict, they're not at that point. They're actually at the opposite side of the things you're talking about. So they have a lot of personal work they need to do. But I mean, all of this is good, and it's good to be aware of. I think as far as mediation, the most important thing is that when a person comes into mediation, understanding the other person also is not feeling any of these things. They're not feeling peace or connected or their light. So really both people in a mediation aren't seeing each other's light. And that's probably the bottom line of the problem. So I think it's great information, and probably a mediator themselves is aware of all these things and how they can help create that space of curiosity so that conflicts can be resolved.
Yeah. So what we before we go, Sherry, we'll have to get Catherine in. Catherine has the next session. Hi, Catherine. Catherine, can you hear me? Maybe not. You can? Yes.
Hello, Vikram.
How are you, Catherine?
I'm here.
So this is Sherry, Lily, Huma. So you can say hi to them. All of you can say hi to Catherine. She's talking to us
Hi,
in the
Kathleen.
next session. So look at the difference of this session and the next one is evolution of mediation in the European Union. That's how diverse the topics are, from transformative mediation to awakening your light to mediation in the European Union. And Huma is listening to all this. I don't know how much. Huma, is you okay? Everything going in? Enjoying it? Okay, good. So Sherry, do you want to do a little kind of a closing kind of thing so that then we can?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, as I mentioned in the beginning, one of the issues is folks in conflict tend to come from the problem side, the conflict, and get stuck in the spiral. And when we can start coming from the vision, then we open up and become more expansive. And when we see ourselves feeling restricted and tightening, we're probably not in alignment. And when we feel expansive and open, we tend to be more in alignment. When it comes to awakening our light, it really is an invitation to come from the vision. And I see it as a preventative measure, like preventing the conflict from escalating or allowing ourselves as mediators. So if every mediator is at least aware of where the mediator is as they enter, are all my needs met before I've entered this mediation session? And the same for so many other conflict resolvers, law enforcement, human resources directors, whoever else is facing conflict on a regular basis. Have you checked in with yourself? When I work with law enforcement, in fact, we do an exercise on this. Have you checked in with yourself before you take a shift? Because what are you bringing? What need you need met before you take your shift? And so just that awareness of showing up with clarity, compassion, and curiosity for ourselves, because it begins with us, with our inner light being aligned with who we want to be and how we want to show up. Because obviously we have no control about what anyone in a mediation or any conflict says or does. We can control our energy, though. We can control how we are showing up, who we are being. And I think that's the important part of awakening our light, to create that inner peace so that we show up with outer peace to create world peace.
Good thoughts, Sherry. Nice thoughts for everyone to carry with them. So that's a closing by itself. It is. Okay. So thank you, Sherry. Wonderful. Obviously, it's been
much.
wonderful having you on the conference and other sessions and everything. So I think Lily and of course Huma, Catherine would like to thank you for sure for that.
Yes, thank you. And I do have to go. It was great to see all of you.
Right. See you, Lily. So Sherry, I'll just shut this